What's up, everybody, and welcome to SGN Podcast. I'm your host, Diego Call. I'm going to be changing the format a little bit, or at least trying it out a little bit, because I've been a huge fan of the 10-minute podcast for a long time, and one of the great things about their podcast was that it was short, it was sweet, it was hilarious, and they were able to get their point across, whether it was a skit, whatever they were trying to do, they were able to get it across in 10 minutes. And I think that, most podcasts out there, they can take anywhere from 1 hour to 5-6 hours if you listen to like hardcore history like I do and stuff like that. And I think it'd be kind of interesting for me to do my own little thing, which is kind of emulate the 10-minute podcast and make things a little bit shorter. Whether that's going to be the final format that I use going forward remains to be seen, but it's something I want to give a shot, and I definitely think it'll be easier for you guys to listen to it as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just get into this episode, which, as you can tell from the title, it's not going to be a happy one for me, because we're going to talk about how Manchester United once again has managed to fail to qualify for the Champions League. Now, if you'd have asked me before Ole Gunnar Solskjaer signed, and really even after he had, if I even thought that we had a chance in hell of qualifying for the Champions League, I would have said absolutely not. It's just not going to happen. We're too far out. The teams above us are too good, and it's just not going to happen. However, some strange miracle, Ollie and Mickey Phelan were able to get the boys actually working for a change, instead of just walking their happy asses around the pitch for 90 minutes, and finally got them to actually perform and play like a team of players that we could kind of, if you look at the roster, you kind of expect them to play that way. But unfortunately, as time went on, after basically the PSG match, where we actually not managed to knock them out, and one of the most memorable moments I've probably ever had as a football fan, and really as a sports fan, because it was the first time in history that a team had gone and lost 2-0 at home in the first match, in the first leg, and gone on to actually, eliminate the team that had beaten them in the second leg. So it was a phenomenal feat there, and you can't take that away from them. But unfortunately, from that moment forward, it seems like the players, they kind of got back to where they were with Jose Mourinho, were thinking they were too good, thinking they were bigger than what they are. Specific players, I'm not going to go too much into detail in this video, because I do in this podcast, because I do want to go ahead and do a separate episode. We're going to be talking about which players that I want to see leaving this summer. But certain players like Paul Pogba, even some guys like Marcus Rashford, who I'm not going to blame him necessarily, because I think that the effort he puts in there, it's undeniable. But there are guys like Paul Pogba and some other ones that, with the amount of talent they have and the skill they have, and the form that they were showing early on in the Ole reign, it's night and day to what they're doing right now. So I think that has to be mentioned. I think that the quality of the team that the players have right now, the talent is there. It's just that there's a huge issue in terms of their mentality, in terms of their effort, and I just think that at the end of the day, we have to get rid of almost all these players. I'm not saying it's going to be possible in this transfer window, but I think that in the span of 3 to 4 summer transfers, I'm not going to count January, so let's just say in basically 3 years, so there's going to be a long process in my opinion. We're going to have to get rid of a lot of the dead wood, because unfortunately, for some reason, the club is giving contracts to players like Ashley Young, to Phil Jones, to Chris Smalling, players that, let's just be real, they have no business being at the club after just the piss poor performances they've had over the past few years. And let's just be honest, like Ashley Young, he was a failed winger who was put to play as a left back or a right back in some situations. So he was already a guy that in his favorite position was nowhere near good enough. And somehow he is now not only a starting left back or right back, depending, like I said, on the necessity of the squad, but he's also the captain. So that kind of just goes to show you how shit United are right now. How shit the club is right now. I mean, not to be too negative and stuff like that, but like I'm just being honest. Like it's to the point where I am nowhere near as pissed off right now, thus not finishing in the Champions League in the top 4, as I would have been a few years ago. Like if you go back and look at the channel, there are some videos where I would react to matches that we lost or we even drew. Like I think I remember a match against Everton, I think it was, where I was furious. Like honestly, it was I still had the feeling that we weren't becoming Arsenal. I still had the confidence that we could turn things around. But at this point, after 3 years, that was probably 2 to 3 years ago. At this point, I've become used to this. I have 100% become used to this. We are a team that, on a good year, can finish second. On a bad year, or I guess you could say a typical year, we finish 6th. We finished 6th or 7th how many times now? after Sir Alex Ferguson left? That's what, 3 or 4? I mean, we've missed the Champions League how many times now? I think we've probably had more Europa League seasons than we have Champions League seasons since Ferguson left. And let's not count the Moyes year, because that was all thanks to Ferguson. That was definitely not thanks to Moyes, because he wasn't even there yet, of course, So, I mean, if you don't count that season, we've pretty much spent more time in the Europa League than we have in the Champions League. So, I mean, it's just embarrassing. It's kind of becoming what the club is. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think that from top to bottom, whether you're talking about the board, whether you're talking about the players, I'm not going to say the managing staff, because, it's definitely not their fault. You can tell, because early on, when Ole came in, everything was perfect. We won, 9 of 11 matches, managed to knock out Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League, doing something that nobody expected us to do. It's like as soon as we got drew against PSG, I figured, it's over. Congratulations, PSG. You are the team that has been selected to just murder us. And yet we somehow managed to get past them. Without Paul Pogba, by the way. Because in the first leg, got mollywashed, and Paul Pogba got his happy ass sent off. In the second leg, without Paul Pogba, we were able to actually somehow knock out Paris Saint-Germain with Mbappe, Thiago Silva, and all those other phenomenal players they have over there. And of course, that's mostly due to PSG being a club that year after year managed to blow it. But you have to give credit where credit is due. Lukaku scored a couple of nice goals that were also gifted by Gigi Buffon. Shout out to Fabio Negro for being a Buffon fan and not wanting to hear this, but he's gonna have to hear it if he listens to it. Basically, I mean, ever since that moment, the team is just kind of going back to what we were with Jose Mourinho, what we were with Louis van Gaal, and it's unfortunate because if you look at Paul Pogba, you look at Marcus Rashford, you look at Anthony Martial, you look at Jesse Lingard. Well, I guess Lingard he's like 26, 27 now, so he's not really a young talent anymore. You look at some of the players we have there. The talent's there. The talent is absolutely there to be in the Champions League. It's just the truth, but the mental aspect of things just do not work. So we need to get rid of a lot of those players. That way, maybe even like I said, I'll talk about this in a future podcast. But Paul Pogba might need to be the first player we sell, because if we get rid of Paul Pogba, then that sends a message to every single player in that goddamn locker room that you are 100% dispensable. The club is what matters, not you. You are not what matters. You are here because the club is paying you however many million a season. You are expected to do what you've shown you can do throughout your career, and if you're not going to do that, then you can get the fuck out of here. That's the way things need to be. Top clubs do that. United, unfortunately, for some reason, have been rewarding shit players like Chris Smalling, like Phil Jones, like Ashley Young with new contracts, with the captain's armband. That has to end. We need to bring in a sports director. Because Ed Woodward, listen, he is as good as it gets when it comes to bringing in sponsors. He is as good as it gets when it comes to the financial aspect of football. But when it comes to the football side of things, he is absolutely clueless and he has no business being there. Okay, so we need to put somebody like Rio Ferdinand, whose name has been tossed around quite a bit lately, who knows the club, who is well respected in the football world, who has a huge personality, who can attract players, who can relate to players, and who knows what the fuck he's talking about when it comes to the sport. If we can get a guy like Rio Ferdinand to bring it to be in that role alongside a guy like Ed Woodward who can deal with all the financial stuff, Rio deals with the football stuff, Patrice Evra, who is a phenomenal ambassador for the club, alongside Peter Schmeichel as well. If we can have these kind of players around who know the club, who know what they're talking about, who know the traditions, then there is a chance of us becoming the United that we've known ever since Sir Alex Ferguson came in, the United that we've known since Matt Busby was there. We need to get back to that time because this is not good. All right, as of right now, I hate to admit this, but we have basically become Arsenal. I think the one thing that kind of separates us from Arsenal is that our fans are not happy if we finish top 4. If we finish top 4, we are not going to celebrate. Okay? Even if we'd have finished top 4, make no mistake about it, we'd have been happy. Yes, we're going to be in the Champions League next season, but we would not have been celebrating. It just wasn't going to happen. Arsenal fans, time and time again, they fight their asses off to finish top 4. They finish top 4, knocking Tottenham back into the 5th place for the most part, or knocking out whoever, and they celebrate like they won the title. That is what Arsenal is. And as long as we're on this downward spiral, there's a very strong chance of us becoming like that, because at this point, it really is based on what we've seen since Sir Alex Ferguson unfortunately retired, on a good year, we finish in the top 4. That is no longer the norm. That is us doing a very, very good job. So that's unfortunate. And I honestly, if you'd have told me that when Sir Alex Ferguson retired, and if you'd have told me that 2 years after Sir Alex Ferguson retired, when we'd already gone to shit with Moyes, we already had Louis van Gaal, who wasn't exactly doing very well. If you'd have told me that in that period, even when Jose Mourinho first signed, I wouldn't have believed you. Unfortunately, it's looking more and more likely that's going to be the case. And this has to change. This has to change, but it has to change from the top all the way to the players. All right, the Glazers, I'm not going to say I've defended them, but I have said many a time that, it's not necessarily their fault. There's a lot of players and there's a lot of managers that have come and gone that just weren't up to the task. And listen, the Glazers aren't up to the task, but if they can put the money down, and they bring in the people that we need to bring in, and unfortunately, if they don't sell, which would be unfortunate because hopefully they will eventually sell, but the club is worth so much, it's going to be hard for somebody to do that. I don't expect it to happen anytime soon, but I'd be more than happy to see somebody do that because we just need change. We need change. I mean, somebody's going to be enthusiastic about truly investing the amount of money that we need to make this team good. You see City. I don't know if they've invested double what we've invested, but they've invested a hell of a lot more. You look at all of these clubs, Real Madrid, they spend a hell of a lot more than us, and the biggest issue is that not only do they spend more, but they spend their money more wisely. We spend our money on Alexis Sanchez, who at the time looked like a very good deal. Unfortunately, his contract issues, basically make it to where we have to kind of give other players what they're like. Listen, the guy's making however much it is, like $500,000 a fucking week. We deserve at least a quarter of that, right? Give us the money. If not, see ya. So, I mean, we kind of have that issue right now. So, we need to get rid of Alexis Sanchez for sure. And I'll talk about that later, like I said, in a future episode. But as of right now, man, this is not good. This is not good at all. And this is a disaster for the club and something that we need to change. What do I expect for the club this summer? I'm hoping to sell anywhere from 6 to 10 players. I'm hoping to bring in anywhere from, 5 to 6 players at least. Quality players. I'm not saying they have to be huge signings. I'm saying they need to be quality players who can do a fucking job, who can put in the fucking effort that we need for somebody to actually do something. And that's pretty much it, man. That's it for this episode. Top 4 is gone. I'm going to probably do another one tomorrow when City, hopefully, because at this point I'm just hoping that Liverpool get fucked in the ass and don't win the damn title because it's going to be a fucking disaster for me. For United fans anywhere. Of course, we don't want City to win the title, but if you have to choose between Liverpool and City, have no choice but to pick City 100%. So I'm going to do another episode tomorrow night probably, talking a bit about the season in general, and of course, if City do win tomorrow, then it's not necessarily over, but I will be doing another one talking about the bigger picture there and who I think is going to win the title going into the final weekend of the Premier League. And I'll probably be talking about the Champions League and all that stuff coming up, so definitely tune into all that stuff and doing some UFC stuff as well, and some NBA stuff probably here coming very, very soon. So definitely check all that stuff out if you're interested, guys, and check out my Mortal Kombat podcast to do with my friend Thomas. That's it's been a while since we've done one of those because of unfortunately, I live in Europe and he lives in America, and between work and him working as well, it's a big issue with in terms of timetable, so we got to figure that stuff out. But definitely check that stuff out if you're into gaming. And nothing, guys. Just thank you so much for listening. See you in the next episode.